The documentary explores Andrew Jackson's infamous kitchen cabinet through the eyes of Amos Kendall, a brilliant strategist who rose from poverty to become the president's most trusted advisor. Recently discovered Kendall diaries reveal the inner workings of Jackson's populist revolution and its dark underbelly. The forced removal of Native Americans along the Trail of Tears, portrayed through heartbreaking first-person accounts from Cherokee survivors. The Civil War segment features the extraordinary story of Sarah Emma Edmonds, who disguised herself as a man named Franklin Thompson to fight for the Union, carrying out dangerous spy missions behind Confederate lines. Her story provides a fresh lens on a familiar conflict, culminating in the little-known fact that Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was hunted down using early forensic techniques that would revolutionize criminal investigation. Part 2 begins with the astonishing revelation that the 13th Amendment ending slavery passed the House of Representatives by just 3 votes, with behind-the-scenes political maneuvering that would seem at home in modern Washington. The documentary introduces viewers to Hiram Revels, the first Black U.S. Senator, juxtaposing his inspiring rise with the swift and brutal backlash of Southern redemption. Rather than a dry explanation of industrialization, the camera plunges viewers into the Homestead Strike of 1892, where striking workers battled Pinkerton agents in a bloody confrontation. Through recently discovered private letters, Andrew Carnegie's conflicted reaction to violence at his steel plant reveals the human complexity behind the gilded facade of the robber barons. The documentary uses cutting-edge colorization techniques to bring Ellis Island immigrants to life, focusing on the extraordinary story of Israel Baden, who arrived at age 5 unable to speak English. Viewers follow his transformation into Irving Berlin, whose song God Bless America would eventually define patriotic music, an immigrant who shaped American identity. Theodore Roosevelt's progressive crusades are made tangible through the shocking photography of Jacob Riis, whose flash-powder images of tenement conditions are shown alongside secretly recorded conversations from TR's White House. The president's unguarded comments reveal how his privileged background wrestled with his evolving views on equality and opportunity. World War I comes alive not through battlefield footage, but through the secret work of female telephone operators dubbed Hello Girls, who worked near the front lines handling critical military communications in France. Despite their service, they fought for 60 years to receive veteran recognition, a little-known struggle for equality. The Roaring Twenties sequence follows not just famous speakeasies, but the incredible story of federal agent Mabel Walker Willebrandt, the First Lady of Law, who prosecuted bootleggers despite widespread corruption, intercut with rare home movies of ordinary Americans flouting prohibition laws they disagreed with. The Great Depression is humanized through the Civilian Conservation Corps boy from Alabama who wrote home, "Dear Mom, for the first time in my life, I have 3 meals a day and my own bed." The documentary reveals the massive infrastructure still used today, revealing that viewers have likely walked on CCC-built trails or bridges without realizing it. The section concludes not with famous D-Day footage, but with the emotional story of the 442nd Infantry Regiment, composed almost entirely of Japanese Americans, many whose families were in internment camps, while they became the most decorated unit of its size in American history, their valor providing a powerful counterpoint to the injustice they fought through. The documentary opens not with expected imagery of the Founding Fathers, but with the discovery of a 13,000-year-old skeleton in Washington state. Kennewick Man, as archaeologists carefully brush away soil from one of America's earliest inhabitants. The narrator poses the provocative question, who can truly claim to be the first Americans? The camera then soars over breathtaking ancient cities, Cahokia with its massive earthen pyramids near modern-day Street Louis, where 20,000 people once lived, rivaling London in size. Viewers are shocked to learn these sophisticated Native American civilizations predated European arrival by centuries. When Columbus's voyage is introduced, the documentary takes a surprising turn, using recently discovered journals to reveal his crew nearly mutinied 3 days before land was sighted. The dramatic recreation shows Columbus secretly adjusting the ship's log to hide how far they had traveled, keeping his terrified crew from turning back. The Jamestown settlement comes alive through the archaeological discovery of Jane, a 14-year-old girl whose bones show evidence of cannibalism during the starving time winter of 1609 to 1610. A forensic anthropologist explains how this grim finding reshapes our understanding of colonial hardships. The documentary then reveals the shocking truth about Pocahontas, not the romanticized Disney character, but a young diplomatic powerhouse who navigated between two colliding worlds. Using recent historical findings, viewers learn she was kidnapped, forcibly converted to Christianity, and died in England at just 21, a revelation that forces reconsideration of America's founding myths. The Salem witch trials sequence employs modern psychological analysis to explain the mass hysteria that consumed the Massachusetts village. The documentary follows Tituba, the enslaved Caribbean woman whose confession sparked the panic, revealing how her strategic storytelling was likely an attempt to save herself by giving her accusers what they wanted to hear, a technique that briefly worked before backfiring catastrophically. Instead of simply mentioning the Boston Tea Party, the documentary introduces viewers to little-known participant George Robert Twelves Hughes, a poor shoemaker whose detailed memoirs provide an ordinary citizen's perspective on extraordinary events. His personal story continues through the Revolution, showing how the conflict affected not just generals and politicians, but common Americans. The Revolutionary War is depicted not just through military campaigns, but through the intelligence war. The documentary reveals the culpa spy ring's ingenious techniques, invisible ink, coded messages hidden in buttons, and signals involving laundry on clotheslines, operations so secret that George Washington himself didn't know the identities of many agents. The camera follows Agent 355, a female operative whose real name remains unknown to this day, but whose intelligence proved crucial to exposing Benedict Arnold's treason. The Constitutional Convention is portrayed through the secret diary of Delegate James McHenry, revealing the behind-closed-doors arguments and compromises never meant to be public. A dramatic recreation shows Benjamin Franklin being carried to the proceedings in a sedan chair, too ill to walk but too determined to miss shaping the new nation. The documentary presents the little-known fact that America nearly adopted German as its official language, with the proposal failing by just one vote in Congress, a historical fork in the road that would have fundamentally altered American identity. Linguistic experts explain how different American culture and global influence might have been with this alternative outcome. As America expands westward, the documentary follows the incredible journey of York, the enslaved man who accompanied Lewis and Clark, who temporarily experienced freedom during the expedition only to be denied it upon return, illuminating the paradox of liberty in early America. The War of 1812 segment focuses not on military battles, but on Dolly Madison rescuing George Washington's portrait from the burning White House. Through her vivid letters, viewers experience her split-second decision to save national treasures while British troops closed in, a dramatic moment of cultural preservation amid destruction. Part 3 opens with American and Soviet soldiers meeting at the Elbe River in 1945, drinking vodka together in celebration. Then cuts to the same location 4 years later, with guards from both sides staring suspiciously across the new Iron Curtain. Recently declassified Venona decrypts reveal actual Soviet espionage occurring alongside McCarthy's often baseless accusations, creating a morally complex picture of early Cold War paranoia. The suburban boom is portrayed through the extraordinary story of Levittown, with William Levitt revolutionizing home construction using assembly line techniques developed during the war. The documentary reveals the shocking whites-only covenant in Levittown contracts, showing how the American dream was systematically denied to minorities, even as it expanded for others. Civil rights history comes alive through Elizabeth Eckford's harrowing walk to Little Rock Central High School, revealed through newly discovered audio recordings of white students who initially tormented her, but gradually changed their views, providing a remarkable window into how profound social change happens at a personal level. The space race sequence features not Neil Armstrong, but mathematician Katherine Johnson, whose calculations were essential to his success. The documentary reveals the little-known moment when John Glenn personally requested that she verify the computer calculations before his historic orbit, saying, "If she says they're good, then I'm ready to go." Vietnam is portrayed through the eyes of both American soldiers and Vietnamese civilians who lived through the conflict, using never-before-seen home movies alongside military footage. The narrative follows one American platoon, whose members reunited decades later with Vietnamese fighters they once battled, their reconciliation offering a powerful metaphor for national healing. The 1970s energy crisis is made startlingly relevant through archival footage of gas lines and shortages, with experts drawing direct parallels to modern climate and energy challenges. The documentary reveals Jimmy Carter's installation of solar panels on the White House roof in 1979. Panels later removed by Reagan in a symbolic shift in American energy policy that continues to reverberate today. The technological revolution is personalized through the unlikely story of Susan Kare, whose icons and fonts for the early Macintosh created the visual language billions now use daily. The section reveals how her simple smiley face, trash can, and file folder designs, drawn initially on graph paper, shaped how humans interact with technology, highlighting the often invisible influence of design on daily life. The section concludes with the fall of the Berlin Wall shown through the eyes of East German border guard Harald Jaeger, who made the split-second decision not to use force against growing crowds on November 9, 1989. His personal crisis of conscience, revealed in an emotional interview, illustrates how massive historical changes often hinge on individual human choices. The final part begins not with familiar footage of the Twin Towers falling, but with the little-known story of Boatlift, the largest marine evacuation in history, where nearly 500,000 people were transported from Manhattan by a spontaneously organized fleet of civilian vessels. Ordinary boat captains described their split-second decisions to help strangers, revealing how Americans responded to tragedy with extraordinary acts of unity. The wars that followed are examined through the remarkable story of Noor Inayat Khan, the first female radio operator sent into Nazi-occupied France during World War II, whose legacy inspired Muslim American soldiers to bridge cultural divides in Afghanistan and Iraq. The documentary reveals how her courage became a powerful symbol for a new generation of American service members navigating complex cultural terrain. Obama's historic election is viewed through the eyes of civil rights veterans witnessing what many thought impossible, juxtaposed with interviews from coal country and manufacturing regions, where economic anxiety was reaching crisis levels regardless of who occupied the White House. This dual narrative creates a more nuanced understanding of a pivotal American moment. The rise of social media is examined through the surprising origin of the hashtag, created not by Twitter engineers, but by user Chris Messina in 2007, who simply suggested using the pound symbol to group conversations. The documentary reveals how this small innovation fundamentally changed how social movements organize, news spreads, and politics operates, for better and worse. The political polarization of recent years is examined through the extraordinary story of Donna Brazile and Ana Navarro, Democratic and Republican strategists who maintained a close friendship despite fierce political differences. Their relationship provides a window into America's tribal divisions, while offering a template for how they might be bridged. The COVID-19 pandemic segment focuses on Catalin Carrico, the Hungarian-born scientist whose pioneering RNA research was repeatedly rejected and nearly abandoned before becoming the foundation for vaccines developed in record time. Her decades of persistence, despite institutional skepticism, becomes a powerful metaphor for scientific innovation and American resilience. The documentary concludes not with political figures, but with contrasting American communities: a rural town in Iowa, an urban neighborhood in Atlanta, a border community in Texas, and a tech hub in Seattle, as residents from each share their visions of America's future. Striking parallels emerge despite profound differences. The camera pulls back to show these communities as constellations in the American landscape, separate but forming a recognizable whole when viewed together. A final montage intercuts ordinary Americans at work, at play, in conflict, and in cooperation, their individual stories forming the pixels of a larger American portrait that continues to evolve. The narrator concludes, "Perhaps America's greatest achievement isn't found in its moments of unity or triumph, but in its perpetual willingness to reimagine itself. A nation forever unfinished, continuously striving to narrow the gap between its ideals and its reality." This documentary outline creates a compelling narrative by uncovering unexpected connections, highlighting overlooked figures, and revealing the hidden stories behind familiar history. By moving beyond traditional narratives to explore diverse perspectives and little-known turning points, it engages viewers with fresh insights while maintaining historical accuracy and complexity. Each part balances intellectual discovery with emotional resonance, ensuring audience engagement throughout the journey through American history.